Lincoln, Nebraska. We have Will Sailors with us, Jason Culver, and Andrew Schnorr today. We thought it might be beneficial for the borrowers and the listeners around the country to understand just briefly the steps of the SBA 504 loan program. We're the largest CDC in the state of Nebraska administering the 504 loan program. And we're going to just briefly go through the steps of the process and give you kind of a summary of how to get started. So, Jason, we'll start with you. What happens when you have your first contact with the banker or borrower on a 504 loan?
I'd probably say 90 to 95% of these loans start by the bank, which we often refer to as a third-party lender, reaching out and contacting us, usually when they've had a chance to review the project or what the borrower is looking to do. And they'll reach out to us and kind of run it by, make sure it fits within the eligibility requirements. And then we also kind of discuss what the structure looks like. How much is the borrower going to have to put down? Is it 10, 15, or 20%? And after that initial call, the next step is really for them to start providing us with application documents, tax returns, cost documents,
Sure.
personal financials, all that stuff they're probably collecting anyways to do their own underwriting at the bank.
Sure. Will, is there anything you can add to that at the very beginning of the process?
Yeah, I'd say the most important part is if you're a bank, when you hear about a loan that might fit for 504 financing, just if it's commercial real estate and equipment, NEDCO and 504 should be going off. And then when we get that initial call, so if you just hear about something like that, commercial real estate that's owner occupied and equipment, give us a call. And that's really the most important part, because then we can give it the sniff test for eligibility and financing structure, like Jason said. So after that point, we'll be able to get you set up with what you need to properly structure the loan when you bring it to your loan committee, and we can give you a lot of tips and things to include at that point. Sure. Giving us a call right as early in the process as possible helps very much to avoid issues down the road.
Sure. And to your point, Jason's point, let's touch briefly on the NEDCO website. I think it's one of the better SBA 504 websites in the country. And there's a lot of information there. And would you suggest that they go maybe at the very beginning, possibly, maybe they found NEDCO at the website, and what's available at our website to assist them in the early stages of their journey? Jason.
Yeah. Our website's got some really good features for somebody who's just starting the application process. One of the best features is our calculator. They can plug numbers for what their project size is into that calculator, and it's going to help determine what their fees are to give them a sort of a heads up of what the structure is going to look like when the 504 loan actually funds.
Sure.
So that's really helpful. And then we also have a resources tab, and under that resources tab, they're going to find the application forms that they need, as well as a checklist that will get them pretty close to every item we're going to need to collect.
Sure. So they made their initial contact, and hopefully they visited the website, and they found your contact information, Will's contact information, and Will, next step after that.
So after we get the bank, a proper structure, the next step is for the bank to internally approve the loan contingent on 504 financing, because if you don't have a bank, you don't have a 504, because the bank generally provides 50% of the financing in almost all cases. So if there's no bank approval, there's really nothing for NEDCO to work on. We can help guide a borrower or a bank along the way a little bit, but getting the bank is the most critical step because they provide the majority of the financing. So that next step will be getting your approved at the bank contingent upon 504. Then at that point, the next step is to apply for the 504. And the bank will already have a lot of the documents that we need to do our underwriting because they've collected those during their underwriting process. So we'll get our underwriting process started and then take it to our loan committee after that.
Sure. Now, Jason, speak briefly, if you would, to the viewers about what a 504 loan can be used for, and what would be just a basic structure as far as NEDCO's participation, the bank's participation, and the borrower's participation.
Sure. I would say the majority of 504 loans we do are going to be for real estate, and that can either be purchase of an existing building, construction of a new building, or maybe an existing building that needs some renovations. That's going to be the vast majority of the loans we do. We can do equipment as well. Very rarely we'll get equipment on a standalone equipment note, and those are 10 years. More often when equipment is included, it's along with real estate. So somebody's looking to buy a building and throw a little equipment into it as well. And we can do those on 20 or 25-year terms.
Sure. And then, Will, if somebody calls in and you're talking to them about what Jason was talking about, real estate, land, buildings or capital equipment, the options sometimes is between a 504 and a 7A. And as you know, most of the time or all the time, if it involves that subject collateral, it would be a 504. Can you speak to that? The fixed rate and.
Yeah, the 504 is beneficial when you're buying. So when you have a business, your biggest asset most times is going to be your building and equipment. And the main difference between the 504 and the 7A is that the 504 is on a fixed interest rate. Right now, we're in the mid sixes with our interest rates, and 7As are variable rate loans that adjust. And in this current interest rate environment, having that adjusting interest rate when prime is 825, and oftentimes 7As have a markup, and those get marked up just depending on from bank to bank. It can get pretty high right now into the 9-10 range, which really becomes a detriment to the 7A loan because your 504 rate, once you're in there, is fixed for 20 or 25 years.
Sure. So Jason, we've moved along through the process, and you have a completed loan application. You take it to the NEDCO loan committee, and then what's next?
Correct. Once we've approved it through our loan committee, the next step is to submit it to the SBA for a final review. At that point in time, we've reviewed it internally. The bank has approved it. Our loan committee has approved it. So it's pretty much a finished product at that point in time. And we're just going through that final step of getting the SBA to review everything that's been collected. And ultimately, our goal is to get an approval issued. And once that approval is issued, that's the go-ahead to the bank. That allows the bank to go and help you purchase the property or purchase the equipment, depending on what you're doing, or maybe open up your construction line of credit. So once we get that approval in hand, you're off to the races.
Sure. And Will, prior to a couple months ago, it was the approval from the SBA was referred to as a letter of authorization. They've changed the name of that. And can you speak to the duration of that letter?
Yeah, so the was formerly called the authorization, which is now called the terms and conditions, which is essentially the authorization just rebranded as terms and conditions. But once you get that document in hand, the bank is good to fund the interim loan, and that's good for 4 years. So you have 4 years to purchase the property, build the facility, and then get in there operating with your occupancy permit to close the loan and permanently fund to get off the interest only.
Great. And then Andrew, from that point in time, then it goes, Andrew Schnorr is our portfolio manager. Once we have the authorization from the SBA, then it goes to our loan closing department. And Andrew is involved in that as well. If you have any questions about your loan as we're moving forward here, Andrew, give Andrew a call from the website. or his contact information if it's regarding an existing loan. And then Andrew assists with moving along through the pipeline. So you can speak to that a little bit, Andrew.
Yeah, once we get the approval back from the SBA, then it comes down to working with the third-party lender and the title company, getting title documents, closing documents, that type of stuff. And I mean, as quickly as people can move along, the quicker we can get loans closed and get them approved as well. So.
Sure, sure. And then Will and Jason, as we wrap up here for our second episode, we had record volume of loans the 2 prior years. Can you speak to the incredible record loan volume we've had in the past 2 years here at Nedco, so we could give the viewers a sense of the number of projects that we're involved in here? Well,
Yeah, so 2 fiscal years ago, we at Nedco approved 78 504 loans, and then the prior fiscal year, so last year we did 80 504 loans here. So we see a lot of different deals, different businesses, and as mentioned before, the most critical part is getting us involved at the very beginning of the step, because we have seen so many deals. The odds are we know how to structure even something really weird, or something that's not very common. So getting us involved in early in the process is ideal, and that's that helps drive the volume and get your loan approved faster, and led to those 78 and 80 loans the prior 2 fiscal years before.
sure. And as we conclude here, Jason, these are these are complicated loans as you structure them. So to Will's point, the importance of getting you and Will and Andrew involved in early is just critical. It's a niche type of lending. It's a very useful tool for fixed rate financing at a low down payment and a low interest rate. And so that's very critical as well. And then maybe Jason, you could say as we conclude, talk about the assumability of this loan, which is very unique in the commercial lending business.
It is. It's definitely not a feature that you come across in a lot of loans, but these actually are assumable. And we have that come up from time to time where, you might actually want to get out of your building or get out of this business, and you've got a potential buyer that's looking to acquire it. Well, they can actually acquire your building and take over your loan at the same time. Given proper underwriting of the new borrower. But yes, these loans can be assumed.
Sure. Well, that's great. Well, this concludes this episode here at Nedco, talking about the steps of a 504. You can get everybody, access everyone's contact information at nedcoloans.org, and it'll be provided in the description for the show. Thank you and have a great day.